Welcome back, guys, to the Joe Cobra YouTube channel. It's time again for another flashback. This time I'm bringing you the 1988 classic Die Hard starring Bruce Willis. Hope you enjoy, guys.
It's Christmas Eve in LA. But a team of terrorists.
You want money? What kind of terrorists are you?
Who said we were terrorists?
Have their own holiday plans.
And I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to kill me.
Okay. We do it the hard way.
But the one thing they didn't plan on was New York cop John McClane.
Got invited to the Christmas party by mistake. Who knew? You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
And you'll have it.
They have already killed one hostage.
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
Lady, do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
Come to Papa, honey.
You really an American?
Only if New Jersey counts.
What does he think he's doing?
His job.
They're using artillery on us.
You idiot. It's not the police. It's him.
He's an easy guy to like
Welcome to the party, pal.
and a hard man to kill. Bruce Willis, Die Hard.
Die Hard is a 1988 American action thriller directed by the great action director of the 1980s, John McTiernan, and is also written by Jeb Stewart and Stephen E. D'Souza. The film follows off-duty New York Police Department officer John McClane, who is played brilliantly by the fresh-faced Bruce Willis, who is caught in a Los Angeles skyscraper on Christmas Eve during a heist led by criminal mastermind Hans Gruber, played by the late and great Alan Rickman. The movie begins on Christmas Eve, where we see New York Police Department detective John McClane arrive in Los Angeles intending to reconcile with his estranged wife Holly at the Christmas party of her employee, the Nakatomi Corporation. McClane is then seen being driven to the party by Argyle, the limousine driver. After his arrival and a change of clothes, the party is suddenly disrupted by the arrival of ex-West German radical Hans Gruber and his team made up of Carl and his brother Tony, Theo, Franco, Alexander, Marco, Christoph, Eddie, Heinrich and Fritz. The team quickly seizes the tower, disables communications to the outside world and secures all the guests and staff as hostages. All except for McClane, who manages to slip away during all the commotion, along with Argyle, the limo driver, who gets locked in the underground car park. Hans begins interrogating Nakatomi executive Joseph Takagi for the code to the building's vault and reveals that he plans to steal 640 million in bearer bonds, with the terrorist act just merely being a distraction. Takagi unfortunately refuses to cooperate, leaving Hans no choice but to kill him. McClane, who is secretly watching, quickly escapes and sets off a fire alarm in an attempt to alert authorities. One of Gruber's men then calls and assures the fire department it was just a false alarm. Hans then sends Carl's brother Tony to investigate the alarm, and on arrival McClane kills Tony and pockets his weapons and radio, which he then uses to alert the LAPD, who suspect McClane of making a prank call. We then meet Sergeant Al Powell, played by Reginald VelJohnson, who is sent to investigate the call. After finding his brother Tony dead, a furious Carl tells Hans he wants blood, but Hans calms him down and sends two more of his men, Heinrich and Marco, to stop McClane, who ends up killing them both.
Free, motherfucker, drop it! Put that fucking gun down! Put the gun down! Okay, put it down! Shoot! Drop the fucking gun down! You are done! Silver table! Where are you going, pal? Next time you have a chance to kill someone, don't hesitate.
Thanks for the advice.
Sergeant Powell then arrives at the building and, finding nothing unusual, he prepares to leave, but McClane drops Marco's corpse onto his patrol car to gain his attention. The shocked Sergeant Powell then summons the LAPD, who eventually arrive and lay siege to the building. McClane then finds Heinrich's bag containing the C4 explosives and detonators and takes them with him. Hans then sends more of his men, this time James and Alexander, who we can see using anti-tank missiles to disable a SWAT armoured car before McClane drops C4 attached to an office chair and computer down the elevator shaft, blowing up their floor and killing them both instantly. We then meet Holly's co-worker, the sleazy cokehead Harry Ellis, who attempts to use his smug skills to make a deal between Hans and McClane for the return of the detonators. McClane refuses the deal and tells Ellis that he's in real danger and way over his head, prompting Hans to finally then execute Ellis. Later, while checking for explosives attached to the roof, Hans encounters McClane in a great scene for the first time. Realizing it's McClane, Hans begins to masquerade as an escaped hostage. McClane, who feels something feels off about him, then offers him a gun, and Hans then quickly attempts to shoot McClane. But John had taken out the bullets beforehand. Carl, Franco and Fritz then arrive, and McClane manages to kill Fritz and Franco, but is forced to unfortunately abandon the detonators while escaping. With the police department not being able to put the situation under control, FBI agents then arrive on the scene and take command of the siege, ordering the building's power to be shut off. This, as Hans had been anticipating, disables the vault's final lock, finally giving him access to the bearer bonds. Hans demands a helicopter under a roof for transport to the Los Angeles airport, but the FBI prepare to double-cross him by sending 2 helicopter gunships instead. McClane then discovers that Hans intends to detonate the explosives on the roof, faking the deaths of his team so they can escape with the bearer bonds. While making final preparations, Hans sees a news report by intrusive and shallow reporter Richard Thornburg that features McClane's children and finally figures out from a desk photo that McClane is actually Holly's husband. Hans's men then order the hostages to the roof, but Hans takes Holly with him to use against McClane as a bargaining chip. All while John and Carl, who gets his chance for revenge, have an epic fight before heading up to the roof. After killing one of the last henchmen and reaching the roof, John sends the hostages downstairs just as the FBI helicopters appear and begins shooting at McClane, believing him to be a terrorist. Gruber then detonates the explosives, destroying the roof and one of the FBI helicopters, with McClane barely surviving the blast. Hans's man Theo, who had been cracking the vault all this time, then goes and retrieves their ambulance getaway vehicle, before Argyle, who had been in the garage all this time, rams the ambulance with the limo and knocks Theo unconscious. A battered McClane then finally finds Holly and Hans and his remaining men. John finally then confronts Gruber and his last remaining man Eddie and surrenders his submachine gun. John does this to spare Holly, but distracts Hans and Eddie by laughing, allowing him to grab a concealed pistol that he had taped to his back that contains 2 bullets. McClane then wounds Gruber and kills Eddie. Gruber stumbles and crashes through a window, but manages to grab onto Holly's wrist as he's falling out. Hans then makes a last-ditch attempt to kill the pair, but McClane removes Holly's wristwatch just in time and Gruber falls to his death. Finally, outside, McClane and Holly meet Sergeant Powell, and just as we think it's over, Carl, who survived the battle from earlier, emerges and attempts to shoot McClane, but is quickly shot dead by Sergeant Powell. Argyle, the limo driver, then finally crashes through the parking garage door in the limo and joins the heroes. The reporter Thornburg then arrives and in a hilarious scene attempts to interview McClane, but a furious Holly punches him in the face before she and McClane leave the area and the film finally ends. So yeah, there you have it, Die Hard, another absolute classic of the 1980s and one of Bruce Willis's best, and the film that made him a superstar. Now, Die Hard was Alan Rickman's first feature film role. Rickman was cast after producer Joel Silver saw a performance of his on Broadway and knew he was the perfect guy to play his villain. Rickman's legendary performance as Hans Gruber paved the way for many other British villains in American movies. For Alan Rickman's famous death scene, he was dropped 70 feet on a blue screen set. The shot used was done in one take, Rickman was dropped sooner than he had been told he would be, so the look of fear on his face as he falls to his death is actually genuine, an act that reportedly angered Rickman. Also, the scene where McClane and Hans meet and Hans pretends to be a hostage was only written in when it was discovered that Rickman could perform a very convincing American accent. Die Hard had a budget of $28 million and went on to make an amazing $141 million in cinemas worldwide. These figures instantly turned Bruce Willis into an action superstar, and the film became a blueprint for an action film in which a lone hero fights overwhelming odds. The film's success went on to create the Die Hard franchise as we know it, which includes 4 sequels: Die Hard 2, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Live Free or Die Hard, and the absolutely terrible A Good Day to Die Hard, along with a number of video games and even some comic books. Die Hard has also been named as one of the best action and Christmas-themed movies ever made. The film also ranks on many film lists as one of the greatest action movies of all time, and it is my personal favorite Bruce Willis movie. So guys, there you have it. That's my flashback for Die Hard. Please guys, show some support to the channel and drop me a subscribe. It would really be a big help to me. Also, if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Also, hit that bell button so you get notified when I post a new video. Also, check out my good friend Mr. P. His YouTube channel is called the Mr. P Movie Review, and I think he does a great job on his channel reviewing movies. And why not down below tell me what is your favorite Bruce Willis movie, and I will see you guys on the next Joe Cobra video. Take care of each other. God bless and goodbye.
Who's gonna be running around in the building? Am I right? Hans. Bobby. I'm your white knight.
I must have missed 60 minutes. What are you saying?
The guy upstairs is fucking things up, huh?
I can give them to you.